Okay, so we are continuing with Tehilim 36. And I think probably the best thing to do would be just to reread it, just to get the creative juices flowing again. So I'm going to read it in English, and I actually don't remember which translations we changed as we went, and I don't remember if I changed them on the document, but we'll see. So we'll see what happens. All right. For the leader, for the servant of Hashem, for David. The inclination to rebel says to the wicked within his heart, there is no fear of God before my eyes. For it caressed him with its eyes to find his sin to hate. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He has ceased to comprehend to do good. Iniquity he contemplates on his bed. He stations himself upon a path that is not good. He does not despise evil. So then we got to the pivot, which is at number 6. Hashem, in the heavens is your kindness. Your faithfulness is up to the upper heights. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Meaning big mountains. Your judgments are like the great depth. Man and animal you save, Hashem. How precious is your kindness, God, and mankind take shelter under the shelter of your wings. They will be sated from the abundance of your house, and the stream of your delights you give them drink. For with you is the wellspring of life, and in your light we will see light. Extend your kindness to those who know you, and your righteousness to the upright of heart. That was the pasuk in the beginning of Sefer Hamada. Let not the foot of the now we pivot back. Let not the foot of arrogance come to me, and the hand of the wicked move me. There the doers of iniquity fell. They were thrust down and unable to rise. Okay, so we did the Meiri last time on the first half, or on the first part until the pivot. Anyone remember the gist of what he said, or what the first 5 psukim were about?
The Russia who, a person who has heretical beliefs,
Yeah,
but hides them behind a veneer of piety.
Yes, very good, right? So the person who has heretical beliefs and hides them behind a veneer of piety, and that was David. So just in terms of playing it through the particulars, I believe the Meiri said for the leader, for the servant of Hashem, David. We noted that was very high praise. So why does he say for the servant of Hashem? Contrasting it with the fake, the poser, right? Then the inclination to rebel says to the wicked within his heart, there's no fear of God before my eyes. So David is saying, I see through you. I see that even though you are being mischased, you are acting pious, I see that you have no fear of God before your eyes. For it caressed him with its eyes to find his sin to hate. What was the pshat of that? That was the weird phrase. To find his sin to hate. That he hates doing something about hating doing good. Let's look at the Meiri again. Gimel. Where are we? Meiri. Gimel. Limso. Okay, so hechalik. Migzeres amraha hachaliko kamo anechli ish chala. Oh no, that's not the Meiri at all. Okay, be'inav. Or v'limso avano ratzal ulachapis ulachazar achav shim eno kederach roots na mata na es hachitzim. Blah blah blah. Kolomar chapes achrim achitim milos lisno ratzal lisno hatov, to hate the good. Es Hashem azvu lishmor, klomar lishmor derachav. Oihi appears limso avono, klomar shayu derachav neimim be'enav. So his ways are nice in his eyes. Ad shehiv yuhu limso avono lahe anesh, ad shesana b'chayav. So which one fits in better? Either to hate the good or to hate his life. Ki hechlik elav be'enav limso avono lisno.
How was he reading the first half?
His sounds like a rationalization type thing. Like he finds reasons. He looks after a way to
like a way to justify.
Yeah.
Like such that he doesn't feel like he's being duplicitous.
I don't know if it's such that he doesn't. I don't know if he even cares about being duplicitous, but let me see the Meiri again.
Justification for his own behavior.
Something like that. Oh, sorry. So he says, okay, I forgot there's one element we forgot, is he says, for in pachet elokim leneged einav, she'eno mamin b'gmul v'onesh. So he doesn't believe in reward and punishment. V'hu amro ki hechlik einav be'einav limso avono lisno. Klomar, uv'zos ha'kfira hechlik la'atmo. Through that kfira, through the denial of reward and punishment, he smooths out for himself. Klomar hanaim hinim la'atmo. He makes it pleasant for himself. So he rationalizes his bad behavior based on the kfira, based on the denial of reward and punishment.
Yeah. It sounds like a almost like utilitarian change of beliefs. That he is denying reward and punishment so that he doesn't have to feel like he doesn't feel uncomfortable.
That's one possibility. I don't know if that's necessitated. In other words, because he's saying that he's. I mean, I do.
Yeah, he's really just saying the phenomenon.
Yeah, he's saying the phenomenon. Yeah. Okay, fine. And then back to the translation again. We said so. The words of his mouth are iniquity. He ceased to comprehend to do good. Iniquity he contemplates on his bed. He stations himself upon a path that's not good. He does not despise evil. So that Meiri said that when he's on his bed, which is the place of thinking, he's contemplating doing evil, and that's just an extension from the first part.
So going back.
Yeah.
It could be that because of some other reason, he. The way I was saying it was, in order, like the natural way that a Russian would react to the situation is developing the belief that there's no scar motivation.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't positing motivation.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I mean, but he also could just have been denying it beforehand.
Right.
I don't think he's.
Yeah. The order was why I objected initially. Yeah. By the way, just a reminder for everyone. What Isaac is doing is good, this is us learning. Okay, this is not a shiur anymore. Remember? Okay, so like we're trying to figure this out together. I have not figured this out on my own yet. Okay, so discussion, questions, answers, theories, good. Okay, okay. So all right, so that's the first half, and the question is, what is the second half doing? Okay, so we didn't read the Meiri yet. So I want to read the Meiri, but I also want to remind you that I only chose the Meiri because of the Mefarshim, he seemed to have the most coherent picture. We don't have to agree with the Meiri though. Okay, so maybe actually just to in the spirit of that, let's just try thinking about it on our own before we go to the Meiri. So given that interpretation of the first 5 psukim, that it's about a guy who is a Rasha, who denies reward and punishment, and who wants to appear pious and makes his own justifies his own behavior on that account, the fact that there's no reward and punishment. So what would 6 through 11 be saying then?
So can you go to the second half of Dalet and Hey again?
Yeah, second half of Dalet and Hey is, so I'll just do Dalet and Hey. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He has ceased to comprehend to do good. Oh, I should have printed out English for you. Iniquity he contemplates on his bed. He stations himself upon a path that is not good. He does not despise evil.
And this is the puzzle that we talked about the Yasafta, right?
Did we? I don't remember.
Oh, it was never puzzle. Here also, the Yasafta is on the word Tov.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do 6 through 11 again. So I'm going to read in the Hebrew actually. Just Hashem, Hashem, your kindness is in the heavens. Your emuna is up to the highest heavens. That's also weird that his chesed is in the heavens. I don't think of the heavens as chesed, unless it's just talking about like the quantity, like your chesed is up to the heavens.
I feel like that's an Englishism that may or may not fit. Actually, I feel like that actually comes from like storehouses.
Filled up to the brim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm getting it from the second half. Emunaska ad shechakim. You know.
Maybe it could also mean like their heavenly kindnesses, meaning they could only have emanated from Shemayim.
That could be right. They're heavenly, right? So your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your justices are like the deep. Man and animal you save, Hashem you save. So that's also weird. What's the animal doing in there?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, animals are not saved. I mean that's another puzzle in who is it? It's either in, I think it's in Habakkuk that when he's talking about the people who deny hashgacha, he says, "To you, men are like the like fish caught in the net," meaning like God doesn't have hashgacha on particular animals. He has only hashgacha on the species. So it's weird that he says God saves man and animal.
How do we translate to home here?
Depths, great depths. Yeah. Ma yakar chasdecha. And so that, by the way, just in terms of the great depths mashal thing. So it is interesting just in terms of the imagery here. So the heavens is the hashemayim. Then the things that are higher than the heavens, that's the shchakim. And then the harim, which are the highest things on the earth. And then the tahom, which is the lowest point on the earth. So it's trying to say that everything is filled up like from the bottom to the brim with Hashem's chesed and emuna and tzedek and mishpat.
Do you think there's something to the fact that his tzedek is like the highest point and his mishpat is like the deepest point?
So I think I would have thought that until I said what I just said, which it almost seems like now it's interchangeable. Like it seems like, and I'm saying this also in I mean, maybe this is actually an approach now that that if the first half is talking about someone who denies God's hashgacha, so the second half is saying every realm of the earth is God is mashgiach on, and it's lav davka, chesed, emuna, tzedek, and mishpat. You could interchange all of them. It means that God's influence extends to every single aspect of the earth, even the highest parts and the lowest parts.
So you don't think there's something like to the fact that tzedek and mishpat are like in opposite directions?
I think if you gave an interpretation like that, I would respect it and believe it, but my sense is that it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's just my sense, and I don't. Again, just full disclosure here, I don't have a Tehilim intuition, a good one. But my Tehilim intuition is telling me that.
Another question.
Yeah.
What does it mean for his for emunascha? Just what does that mean? How does Hashem have emuna?
So I think emuna here is emuna here is faithfulness, like that God is follows through with what he says he's going to do.
Like
Dependability, yeah, reliability. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What is shchakim?
Shchakim is like the heavenly heavens. The stuff above the heavens.
Is that more heavenly than Shemayim?
I think it's more heavenly than Shemayim. That's my impression. Yeah. Or it's just a synonym for heavens,
Yeah. Okay, so
Can I ask a question on bet?
Yeah.
So when it says like pachad instead of yira, is that like
Yeah.
showing a lower level of like, because he's saying like he doesn't even have that. Because I was just thinking like, why would it not say yira? Because we usually
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's like a Hebrew question. That's like a Malvim type question where like I have no idea on my own whether pachad is more or less than the yira. For example, we say what. I think pachad is more. We say pachad. I only know two things about pachad. Okay, one is we say pachad yitzchak. Are you saying that because your name is Yitzchak? Do you know what? Like, because pachad yitzchak is like, yeah. We translate it as dread, and like Yitzchak experienced like a great. He was almost sacrificed. That's why we call him pachad yitzchak, or why we call Hashem pachad yitzchak. And then the other thing I know about pachad is the Rav's mashal. Rav gives a very vivid mashal about pachad. That he said that like he told this anecdote where he I don't want to misquote it, but it's powerful enough that even if I misquote it, it'll convey the sense, where like he woke up in the middle of the night or something like that. Oh no, he didn't wake up. No, sorry. He was like downstairs or something like that, and like there was a storm and like this loud crack of thunder, and like he knew that like his wife or something like that was afraid of thunder, so he ran up to her room to comfort her, and then he suddenly remembered that she had been dead for several years, and he said that this feeling of pachad, of absolute like I don't even know how he said it, but it was just like this complete shock, so that's how we describe pachad, which is and I think one of the differences also is we use yira for fear and for awe, but I think pachad is more animalistic, like trembling, frightened, cowering, yeah. So Rivki, I don't know, that's the answer. Yeah, we can look at the Malvin. I don't have the Malvin here. I can look online, but we can't. Okay, yeah.
No.
Okay, so let's look now. You were going to say something earlier? I think I forgot.
I was just noting that it's not in a heavenly height order. It's not like
Yeah.
descending height,
Right.
which works all with that, but does not lend itself to like this like descending. You know?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe, again, I don't really know about the shchakim. Does the Mesudas Tzion say the shchakim? What pasuk is that? Vav. Mesudas Tzion. If he doesn't say it, then I give up. Bahashamayim and yeah, no shchakim, right?
Nope.
Okay. Well, what's the targum? He doesn't even translate it. Okay, fine. All right, so then I give up. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So something about heavens. All right, fine. And remember, we can't get caught up in the details. All right. So then we were what were we reading? Ches. Ma yakar chastacha. How precious is your chesed Elokim? V'nei adam b'telkan fakada yachasayon. And mankind will shelter under your wings. Now it's just apparently man, not animal. Yirvun midashem beisacha v'nacha adanachas hashkem. What was that again? They will be sated from the abundance of your house and the stream of your delights. You give them drink. Ki imacha makor chaim b'orchan yireh. Or with you is the wellspring of life. In your light they see light. Extend your kindness to those who know you and your righteousness to the upright of heart.
Yeah.
What was that?
Is this like sort of this section going from wider to narrower in terms of how specific of an effect of Hashgacha it's talking about?
I hear that. Right. Yeah. So his chesed is filling the whole universe, then including animal. So everything, including presumably all the creations, then man and animal, then man, and then I guess 9 is also man, then also man, then those who know you and the upright of heart is specific categories. I can see that.
Yeah,
that seems good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does preciousness kind of like, at least to me, it indicates like scarcity?
Yeah, it's the same word in Hebrew, yakar, right? Yakar is precious and scarce. Yeah, okay. which is like contrary to Vav.
Because we're saying that it fills that, like all of these like traits fill everywhere, and then like there's that connotation of scarcity, which is
that's a good point. And similarly, just to add to that, in Yod Aleph, Moshe chasdecha liyodecha, the only ones who get God's chesed are those who know Him.
And it also took away the animals from before.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Right. Yeah, I mean, I can answer that based on my knowledge of the Hashgacha. Okay. However reliable that is God's, like, this is a point that Sefer HaChinuch makes a lot. God's tov is always abundant, but you have to tap into it in order to get it. So it's possible to say both, that they're not a contradiction, that God, God's chesed is filling everything, but those who know Him will align themselves with it and receive it. But if you don't do that, then you won't get it. Yeah.
That works.
Exactly. You got to dip your canteen in. Yeah. So I have a theory, and I'm saying this not based on the Meiri, which we haven't read yet, but I have a theory about what the relationship is between the first half and the second half. Anyone want to venture a theory before I state mine? Oh, last two psukim, yeah. Let not the foot of arrogance come to me, and the hand of the wicked move me. So that is now, so again, you have 1 through 5 is about the wicked themselves. 6 through 11 is about the good guys, presumably which David and Melech is a member of, especially because he's Eved Hashem. And then 12 is a bakasha about the interaction, saying, don't let them interact with me, or don't let me become like them. I think that's let not the foot of arrogance come to me. I mean, you can learn that in 2 ways. Let not the wicked who are arrogant come to me, or let not the foot of arrogance, meaning like some sort of like level of arrogance, come to me, and the hand of the wicked move me. That also could be, I feel like, the wicked affecting me, the wicked victimizing me, or the wicked affecting me. They're the doers of iniquity fell, they were thrust down and unable to rise. That one is the most non sequitur to me. Like they're getting their comeuppance, but I mean, I guess that's the mishpat. Yeah. So I don't know if I can explain that last part yet, but anyone want to venture a theory for what the relationship is between 1 through 5 versus 6 through 11? Yeah.
The nice and Hashem's interaction with the world. I'm not really tied to this cleverness thing. They deny God's interaction with the world, and that's why they feel comfortable with the veneer of deceit.
Yeah.
But really, God does interact with the world, and he's elaborating on that.
Okay. Yeah. So that I think that's closest.
12 and 13.
That's closest to the Meiri, right? Because the Meiri is definitely emphasizing how they deny Scarvonish, and then 6 through 11 is about Scarvonish. Yeah, that's good. I like that, and we'll see how that plays out in the Meiri when we read 6 through 11. Anyone else have anything? I have a different approach.
I guess I think that 6 through 11 is like an appeal to the person who sort of denies the Shkafa of Hashem, to like recognize it in sort of in every aspect of reality, because it's throughout all of the universe, and it's both on a wide scale and on a more narrow scale.
Okay, that's also good, and that's also very in line with the Meiri. Yeah. All right, good. Mine's not in line with the Meiri. You guys might be better with the Meiri here. So I'll tell you what I think, and I'm also admitting that I might be projecting based on the Rambam. Okay, that the first 1 through 5 is talking about these Rishaim, which we haven't talked about their motives yet. We just talked about their behavior. Is they act pious, and inside they actually don't believe that God is involved in the world. So to them, it's like they're just faking other people out. And in a way, it's like they're faking God out in their minds, because they don't hold that God actually interacts with them or has anything to do with them. So what 6 through 11 is doing is stressing the absolute reality of God's hashgacha, and saying that God knows those who know him. That God can tell, like, what is your only connection to God is the fact that your knowledge of God, and you're acting in line with that knowledge. You know, that's the Yod Echa, those are people who actually know God. And then Yishrei Lev is people who act in line with knowledge of God, even if they don't actually like know him on a high level, you know? And what I'm actually reminded of, and this is where I'm going to admit that I might be projecting, is the Rambam's definition of Emunah that we did in our Rambam B'kiyah here, which I'll read in English now. I now that I have my English here. So Rambam's definition of Emunah in the More Nevuchim 150, which is very, very important to know, says, when reading my present treatise, bear in mind, I forgot if this is my translation or Shlomo Pine's. I guess we'll find out. When reading my present treatise, bear in mind that Emunah does not refer to the notion which is uttered with the lips, but to that which is apprehended by the mind. The conviction that the object apprehended by the mind exists in reality as it is apprehended in the mind. Pause, digest. Okay, so Emunah is when you have a certain idea in your mind, and you are convinced that the thing as conceived in your mind also exists in reality the way it exists in your mind. And I gave, in the Rambam B'kiyah, I gave the analogy from Einstein, that when Einstein had his, came up with the theory of general relativity, and the rest of the scientific community was denying it, then there was going to be an eclipse, and the eclipse would basically either disprove or be in line with Einstein's general relativity based on the appearance of the stars around the moon and how light bent. And so basically Einstein said that Max Planck, who was another one of the major physicists, didn't understand physics. And people were like, what do you mean he didn't understand physics? And Einstein said, because if he understood physics and he knew like the truth of the theory, he would have gone to sleep the way I did. You know, that instead of staying up and watching the eclipse, you know, and so what he meant by that is Einstein, in his mind, the theory was so clear that in his mind it would work. He knew that the way it would work it worked in his mind is exactly how it would work in external reality. Whereas the scientists who lacked emunah, rational conviction, needed to get the conviction from the sense experience. They didn't have it from their mind, you know. Okay, so then he says like this, and this is where I think this relates to our parak. If you are one of those people who are satisfied with expressing in speech the notions that are correct, or that you deem to be correct, without apprehending them and having rational conviction in their real existence, and especially if you do not thoroughly seek certain knowledge regarding them, then this will be very easy. Indeed, you will find many naive simpletons who embrace beliefs without connecting any idea with them. So there are a lot of people who say, oh, I believe in God, I believe in the soul, I believe in Hashgacha, I believe in Olam Haba, but they have no idea what even they believe. They don't know the contents of their own beliefs. So that's not actually emunah, and that's going to be very easy. If, however, you have a desire to rise to a higher state, namely that of analysis, iyun, and have a rational conviction that God is one and possesses true oneness without admitting plurality or divisibility in any sense whatsoever, you must understand that God has no essential attribute in any form or in any sense whatsoever, and that the rejection of corporeality implies the rejection of essential attributes. If, however, someone believes that he is one but possesses a number of essential attributes, such a person says in his words that he is one, but believes him in his thought to be many. This is like the doctrine of the Christians who say that he is one and he is three, and that the three are one. Similar to this is the assertion of him who says that he and his attributes are one, while he denies at the same time his being corporeal and believes in his absolute simplicity, as if our investigation aimed at what we should say and not what we should have conviction in with our minds. Emuna, and now he states his definition one more time in the clearest way possible. Emuna is only possible after the apprehension of a thing. It consists in the conviction that the thing apprehended has its existence outside of the mind in reality, exactly as it is conceived in the mind. If, in addition to this, we are convinced that the thing cannot be different in any way from what we believe it to be, and that no reasonable argument can be found for the rejection of the belief or for the admission of any deviation from it, then the belief is true. Last paragraph. Renounce desires and habits, follow your reason, and reflect what I'm going to say. I think it's probably reflect on what I'm going to say in the chapters which follow on the rejection of the attributes. You will then be fully convinced of what we have said. You will be of those who truly conceive of the oneness of God, not those who utter it with their lips without thought, like the men of whom it is said, you are near in their mouth, but far in their reins. It is right that a man should belong to the class of men who have a conception of truth and understand it, even though they do not speak of it. Thus the pious are advised and addressed, commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still Selah. So in this parak, I'll connect it to Tehilim in a second, but in this parak you have people who have true emunah, who are not only say the right ideas of Hashem Echad, but the notion of Yichud Hashem that they have in their mind corresponds to the reality to the greatest extent possible. And then you have the naive simpletons who believe that the only thing is you got to say the right ideas, but they don't have any concept in their mind about it. And what does this have to do with Tehilim? Is that people in the first half of Tehilim are the opposite. They're at the other extreme. They don't actually believe in it, and they don't even believe that they believe in it. All they do is say it and act like it. And what this is emphasizing is those people who actually don't have a real concept, who just fake having emunah in Hashem and knowledge of God and all these other ideas, but live contrary to that, they are destined to fail and to fall, like it says in the last pasuk. And the people who actually are Yode'echa, who have actual knowledge of God, not only are they on the right path, but God will actually extend his chesed to them. And God knows what they actually believe, and that's like, again, I know this parak, this pasuk of Tehillim that the Rambam ends with is not like in our pasuk, in our parak, but he's saying even people who are on their own beds and just reflecting on the correct ideas of God, and no one can see them and hear them, that's like the correct state of mind to be in. Like all that matters is the content of your mind, not what people think of you. And these Rishaim in our parak are like preoccupied with what people think of them, and inside their they're it's not just that they're preoccupied with what people think, it's that they think that that's the only thing that matters, and what they actually believe doesn't matter at all.
Question.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the Rambam's idea of emunah, he really stresses like that the idea in the mind has to exactly correspond to the idea that you're perceiving in order for it to be true emunah. How is it possible really to have emunah of God if you can't truly understand the idea of Hashem or even Yichud Hashem? Like he says that there are people like that who he says that there are people like that who actually understand Yichud Hashem.
Right.
But,
so that's a big problem. I mean, he addresses that in 4 more chapters later in 154, which is through negation. That's the short answer, is through negation. But you're right, is that ultimately it's impossible to fully comprehend Yichud Hashem because we're physical, and any idea of Yichud Hashem we have is going to be tainted by the physical. But the existence of Hashem we can have, because that could be something that's inferred from Hashem's creation, which we can know. But yeah, Yichud Hashem is, that's why the Rambam formulates the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem as liyachado, which is a process, as opposed to the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokacha, which he says, Leda Shi Sham Eloka, to know that there is a God. You can absolutely know that there's a God and have that 100%. But to grasp God's oneness, that's an infinite process that you're never going to fully get. So it is a good question why he says it as if you could fully grasp it. But I don't know the answer to that other than negative knowledge.
I have a good example of where, like, something where this type of amuna is like apparent.
Yeah.
Statistics.
Yeah.
That people can understand how probability works, but then when like they're acting based on it, they'll let's say do things like gambler's fallacy or like not act, just not act based on what their knowledge of statistics would dictate, because even though they know it as like this is true, it's not real to them.
Yeah, right. That's a good example. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good example because it's very concrete. Statistics can be concrete. Okay.
So you're saying the knowledge that the people in 6 through 11 have is the knowledge that Hashem's existence. You're saying that they have positive.
I should say I do agree that the parak is about hashgacha though, but ultimately that traces back to knowing God himself, and that's in 11 is those who know you, and that's what's real, and that's what God's responding to. In other words, the subject of the parak, what I'm positing, the subject of the parak is about two extremes of knowers of God. The first half is people who are entirely fake in their knowledge of God, that they portray themselves as those who know God and have emunah in God, but in their actions and in their insides, they don't. And those people are going to be destroyed. But 6 through 11 is the people who the only thing that matters is their knowledge of God. And he doesn't even compare them to how other people, like he doesn't even talk about how other people view them. It's just they have knowledge of God, and they take shelter in God, and they act in line with God's will. And those are the people who God actually bestows chesed and tzedek on.
According to this, what's the purpose of Pasuk 11? Meaning, why did it seems like a natural effect that Hashem's kindness and goodness would go to those people?
Yeah, that's a good question. You mean, why is it a bakasha and not just a statement, right? That's a good question.
That might be the style of Tehilim. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, there's one thing also that, like, I don't know if this is a good answer, but there are two frameworks in which we relate to, or in which God's will relates to us. Mishpat is presuming that given the fact that God's world exists and he created it in a certain way, then there are certain things that God should do which are in line with justice, and certain things that if he didn't do, it would be not just. But then there's another framework in which Olam Chesed Yibane, that everything God did is Chesed, and he doesn't owe us anything, and we're completely dependent existences. And in that framework, God doesn't owe us anything, and everything he does for us is a Chesed, So so it could be, and this is just me, again, with my non-trained intuition to Tehilim, extend your kindness to those who know you in righteousness to upright of heart. So in terms of schar of ownership in Mishpat, that's going to happen. But David is asking for it in a bakasha form because he's acknowledging that God doesn't owe us that at all. Like that is something that like he has to ask for, I don't know if that makes sense though. All right, so let's do this now. Let's read through the Meiri on the remnants of the Pesukim so we can get one person who knows Tehilim, see what he thinks. Yeah.
I was just saying about the last point.
Yeah.
The fact that he says that Hashem saves animals. The fact that, and I think that points to what you're saying, because like about that everything being kindness.
Yeah.
Because it's that like animals don't have like a right to survive as a species.
Yeah.
But Hashem still like set up such that they can.
Right. That's a good point.
So
right. That's definitely in a different framework. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at right above of Achakach Hiskil Emunos of Hashlemos. Now he begins with the perfected Emunos, Shem Keneged Emunos HaRasha, which are contrary to the Emunah of the Rasha. V'amar, he says, Hashem b'chastecha Hashemayim b'chastecha. Kanaso shehashgachaso kolelas hakol. So the intent is that his hashgacha encompasses everything. Ha'elyonim v'tachtanim. So that's what we said already. Lo shetifsak b'galgal kadas philosophy. Not that it stops at the sphere like the philosophers say. So that was Aristotle's belief that God's hashgacha is only up until the lunar sphere, but everything on Earth is just chance. So Meiri speaking against that. Aval shetagil l'shefel hamakomos, goes to the lowest of places. Ratz lomar kol makom shetimsa bo bria, mina brios hamurkavos. Any place where you find any created thing that is composite. Okay, I don't know why he has to mention composite, but like any creation. The Sipir Tchila Hashgacha be'olam ha'elyon shesham hodo v'hagadol. So first he talks about God's hashgacha in the upper realm, where there's his great splendor. In the heavens is your kindness. You created them with your kindness. So you see, he's also taking emuna and chesed as not as lav davka, right? It's just all hashgacha. And regarding the lower world, which is fitting for reward and punishment, right? Because the upper world is not, there's no beings with free will in the upper world. So there's no reward and punishment there, just hashgacha. So regarding those things, hold on, I'm blocking, I can't tell what's in the Meiri. Tzidkaska kahare el, klomar ligmul l'tovim, for the reward for the good. Vamar hare kel derech haflaga. It says the mountains of God by way of hyperbole. Kmo shel hevesia, the shalhevet of God, the fire of God, flame of God. I always felt that if our school of blessed memory leveled up, just like Avram got changed, his name changed, everything would be shel hevesia. But that never happened. Okay. The Meiri then go.
It'd be kind of hard for school to get Nevuah.
yeah. We'll save it for the next one. The much anticipated sequel. Aphelia, from the darkness of God. Arzekel, the cedars of God. So this is just as hyperbole. Okay. Umishpatacha. By the way, someone said last time, I don't remember who said this, that it feels weird to use God's name just to magnify something. And people do it in English though. Like, my God, that's a big mountain. It's a term that you use because you're talking about the supreme being. You're like, infusing the thing with that. Yeah.
I always kind of
I
thought
always
that
thought that was musing on Marabu Masacha, that like, wow, God like created that. Like, God's even bigger
That's
than
how
that.
some people do it, but I don't think the average person who says OMG is like thinking
Really?
about God's creation. Yeah.
I always thought that was like a little bit bad, like the dust of like using Hashem's name in vain.
It is. That's
like
how the Rebbeinu Baki in Bakuda says it. He says that people think
It's glorifying his creation. It's like, wow.
Well, glorifying his creation is like that, but saying OMG is not like that. It's cheapening God's nname,
especially if you say it in frustration or something like.
Yeah. That's even worse. Okay. Umish patach. Yeah.
I mean, it's better than like. It's probably better than saying something like "geez" or
Yeah, there are worse things. Lots of worse things. Okay. Umishpatecha is lahani sharashayim, is to punish the wicked. Tahom rabba, the depths, the deep depths. Klimer shehashgachascha b'chol mitzius bichlalo, that your hashgacha on all of existence in its entirety. Ratlamer elyon v'tachton, above and below. Uvak inyan ma adir shimcha b'chol arts asher tana hodecha al hashmaim. How wondrous is your name in the entire earth, which you have given your splendor over the heavens. Okay, Kamosha bi'arnu b'mizmor hashmini, like we explained in the 8th mizmor. V'chein kiseh shemaim, kisa shemaim hodo, utilasa malei ha'aretz. Okay, whatever. V'chein ki gadol me'al shemaim chastecha v'ashchakim v'mitecha, whatever. V'samach roma al hashemaim imrasecha, v'samach lo ruma al hashemaim elokim. Okay, fine, we get it. Okay, Adam uvahema. All right, this is what I'm most curious about. Man and beast, Toshi Hashem. Hashem, you should save. Lirmos hashgachaso af abal echaim. Okay, it's not skarv onesh, but it's his hashgacha is also on animals. Elashi hashgacha minis, but it's hashgacha minis, which is another term for hashgacha klalis, right? Is a species hashgacha, lo hashgacha pratis, but not particular hashgacha. Or
I like that term better.
What was it?
I like that term better.
Hashgacha minis.
Yeah.
I don't like it better because I think it brings to mind organisms, and hashgacha klalis extends beyond organisms. Because we usually use the term min for species of living things, Also, there's another problem, which is that now that we know about evolution, then what we mean by species is a little sketchier.
Yeah, but I think it's like categorical. That's how I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part's nice. Okay. Yeah, we got into this problem in Eov today in Lomdeha, because all of the Rishonim assumed that species were eternal,
Oh.
and we know that that's not true anymore. You know.
Yeah.
So they thought that species could never become extinct, and they thought that species had like set design, that like they're perfect the way they are, but we know that they're still evolving. All right, sidestep that one. Or remes bezeh, or it alludes. So that's one interpretation, is that it's talking about God's hashgacha, klallus on the animals. Or remes bezeh. So that then would still fit within Isaiah's theory, which is that it's talking about God relates to man and animal through hashgacha klallus, and then the next is going to talk about how God relates to man in hashgacha pratis. Yeah. All right. Or remes bezeh, or it's alluding to the fact that in mevuchas tzadik v'ralo. Speak of Eov. Or it's talking about the confusion of tzadik v'ralo v'rasha v'tov lo. V'yeh inyan b'hashmaim chazdecha mamar harasha. Ooh. Anyone catch that? The Russia is saying your kindness is in the heavens, meaning as
here.
opposed to and not here. Yeah.
Oh, he's saying so. Vav is the pivot.
So then Vav would be the pivot,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Let's look at that in the English here, right? So then it would, that's saying that Vav is part of the Russia side. Ooh, clever. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, let's see him spell it out now. Kolomar, avon she'amarti shu choshev al mishkavohu, the iniquity that he thinks on his bed, which I mentioned, is shesover, that he holds, shehashgachasacha ina ela bahashamayim ba'ad shachakim, that he holds that your hashgacha is only in the heavens and in the upper heavens, v'shetifsok b'galgal hayareach, and that it ceases at the lunar sphere.
He's directly attacking Aristotle Shri.
Yes. The Yigram lo ze also heder hasidur. And what caused him to say this? The lack of order in human affairs, right, on earth.
Isn't this the opposite, or like not the same mistake as he was saying he was making before? Because earlier it sounded like his mistake was he just didn't believe that there was order.
Right. Now he's clarifying it's only order in the heavens, but not on earth. Yeah. And by the way, I think we should mention the contemporary example of this. What's the contemporary? I mean, obviously,
is this like deism?
Cosmic watchmaker.
Yeah, I think there's more contemporary though. Like I mean, that's true, but I think there are a lot of. I think the most contemporary version of this that you'll find is a lot of scientists will say, if you substitute the word lawfulness for hashgacha, okay, which is a reasonable assumption based on the way that the Rishonim talk about hashgacha, there are a lot of scientists who believe that everything in the universe operates in accordance with lawful principles, except when it comes to human behavior, you know, and they hold that there's even the human body operates based on lawful scientific principles and human emotions do, but there's no objective law that governs good and bad and right and wrong and how people should live. You know, that's the modern version of this type of heresy, you know, and still matches up with the pasuk in Tehilim, because they're saying, yeah, everything operates according to hashgacha. I mean, I guess you can't make it as clean as like ad hashamayim, you know, but like everything in the universe operates with hashgacha, with lawfulness. But when it comes to like being good and bad, that's just all made up. Like there's no objective good and bad, and human beings live however they want. You know, there's no justice in human affairs. Again, it's not exactly the same, but it's the closest.
Is that like moral relativism?
Yeah. Moral relativism is a form of that, right? That all morals are just made up. Okay. So then he says, "V'yigram lo zeh ra'oso." Oh, I read that. Okay, so now he's going on. Is that even further? Yeah, so he's extending it to 7. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. So he's saying the Russia holds that it means they're out of reach. Okay. What did he say? Man cannot reach them. And same thing in the sea, man can't reach it. So too, man cannot reach the depth of his hashgacha in the world. Oof. Klomar, so until the point where they say God saves man and animal, Klomar, mikra echad lakol. There's one fate for man and animal. And all the more so, they'll see the opposite of what is proper. So in other words, it's sarcastic. Yeah, God will save man just like he saves beast.
Is
Meaning, God doesn't save beast and God doesn't save man.
Wow.
or is he saying that the saving is they die?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. Hold on. What does the 17 say? I don't know. It's hard to read the words that way. I see where you're reading it in the Meiri. I think it makes more sense to say that it's also
I just think it would be an interesting twist if his whole mistake was like anger about death, but maybe you just
I
can't
mean, it
read
is
that into
anger
it.
about the fact that a tzaddik dies unjustly, Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go on though, because we got the main point, which is that this is all denial of hashgacha. So however you read the psukim, it's the wicked are denying hashgacha on man, and David is affirming it or elaborating on their denial. Okay, if Amar Achara Cain, he does chester yobez. Classic Meiri, right? Ma yakar v'gomer ulpirsha rishon, according to the first interpretation, meaning that it is about affirming that hashgacha is everywhere, right? Inyano al remez al tova olam haba. Oh, now we're going to olam haba. Is that it's alluding to olam haba. V'chein lapirsha sheni. Same thing according to the second interpretation. Inyano teshuva al heder hasidur. It's the response to the lack of order. Lahodia shetachli takmul ha'onesh hu ba'olam hanitzchi, saying that the ultimate reward and punishment is in the eternal world. V'hu amru derech haflaga. He's saying in an exaggerated way, ma yakar chastech elokim. How precious is your kindness, God. Ratzal ha'asid lavo al hashlemim. So maybe that is what Aviva was saying about the scarcity, meaning it's reserved for the future world, for those who are perfected. Those people who take shelter in your wings, they are the ones who you will sate with your goodness. Your house here is olam haba. That's what it means, that with you is life, is the wellspring of life. Okay, here's potentially answering Isaiah's question. Now he says, by way of request, that makes sense now. Okay, that God should extend to those who know him his kindness and righteousness in this world, in order that he be able to be involved in the perfection of his soul, so that the foot of arrogance not come to him to distract him or burden him with its wars. So in other words, the reward in Olam Haba is natural. That's going to come automatically. That's just justice. But the bakasha is God should extend chesed and give us brachos and help and assistance here so that we can get Olam Haba. That's not something that we take for granted. That's something we have to ask for.
I guess I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So it seemed like he was building up the point that Hashem's hashgacha is everywhere, all over the earth and into the future even.
Yeah.
But already kind of implying that it exists in the present too.
I mean, I don't know if future and present is the way to look at it, but even though you're right, it's David is alive, and when he dies, he's going to get the other part. But he's talking really about he's talking more about the ultimate reward, which is Olam Haba, and the facilitating reward, which is here, which is the brachos and the skarva onesh here that helps us to perfect ourselves to get Olam Haba, like in Ramam Perek Tes of Tshuva. Let's finish reading it and then try to theorize about the entire thing, since we only have a few more minutes. Sham naflu pole avin, avar b'makom asid. There you go. Tenses, right? I told you don't trust tenses in Tehilim. This is past tense, but it really means future tense. So there, the doers of iniquity will fall, not have fallen. They will fall as a result of their plots, and they will not get up. Sham kamo az, and sham means then. Or maybe it's talking about the evildoers, that all of their good is going to just cease in Olam Hazeh. In the world to come, they'll fall without getting out. All right, fine. I didn't cut off the rest of it, but I think it's just grammatical. Okay, so now the question is, what is the parak about? Okay, in light of the Meiri or in light of us? Okay. Because he really introduced several new elements that we didn't have. One is he really took the hashgacha theme and made that primary. And he also introduced Olam Haba, which look, that does make sense in terms of the, I see how he's reading that into 9 and 10. With you is you'll give them to drink, they'll have the wellspring of life. What's the main idea of the pasuk, and then what's the practical application? Meaning, how is this supposed to change our relationship to Hashem or our view of ourselves in the world? Like, what impact is this supposed to have on us? And can we preserve our idea from before, or does that have to be nixed? Because I mean, maybe I'm just mislayifying it. I was putting it more in terms of the people who are counterfeit Balei Emunah versus the people who are true Balei Emunah and who God actually relates to. But that doesn't seem to be the way the Meiri is going. He seems to be putting it about Hashgacha.
But I think they can be related. Like you're
I
talking
hope
about.
so. Go ahead.
You're talking about like the idea with like having the wrong view, like with the thoughts versus like, kind of like he said, like with, I'm bringing in Rambam now. Oh, wait. So are you talking about that whole idea though?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I'm open to anything that works. I'm open to here.
Okay. I was just thinking, because if we're talking about uniting the idea of like saying one thing and then believing a different thing, and then the view of like what he's talking about with hashgacha, like that whole thing, yeah. I think they can be related, because in order to get that hashgacha in the first place, and in order to actually receive what Hashem is trying, whatever, if you receive it, then it's a whole thing. And I think you need to have the right views in the first place, and not just the right views, and not just saying like, perceiving, looking like you have the right views, but really believing it. So I think
okay.
Together.
Okay,
is that the foot of arrogance then? Like that is the last two psukim here kind of reflecting like not to let him get swayed by those that speak that which is not true.
I was going to say this also, and I think this is the we said that pasuk Beis is really hard to learn. Pesha la Rasha b'kerev libi. So we said that so literally that means is that sin says to the Rasha, in the midst of my heart, ein pachat elukim leneged einav. So it's unclear whether David is talking about his own heart or in the Rasha's heart, And then if you combine that with pasuk Yud Beis of don't let the foot of arrogance come to me, and the hand of the Rishayim move me. So maybe David is realizing that there is a tendency to deny Hashgacha in him. Not that David denies Hashgacha, but there's a tendency in all of us to deny Hashgacha. That's how we get out of that's how we rationalize our misdeeds and all that other stuff. And so he's saying basically that, okay, look, I see the Rishayim who are full-blown fakers and deniers, and I see what the reality is, that God's hashgacha is everywhere. And then I ask Hashem, please don't let me give in to that part of me that denies hashgacha, and which stems from gaiva, and let me have truly take shelter in you and get all these benefits of the chesed and the tzedek, I want to polish it a little bit. I mean, that's I'm not saying
gava. Is the gava the thought that he is aligned with the real idea, or that he would even think that he could tap into the real idea?
Oh no, I was thinking differently. I was thinking the gaiva is the thought that there's no hashgacha.
So it's not that he would. Okay.
Yeah, that's the the type of gaiva of the kolchiv otim yadi gaiva, or the the bad bishvili nivra, or li or vani sisini, I made the Nile and it's mine. I want to try to we have to stop now, but I want to try to polish this. But I don't necessarily. Okay. Well, I should mention this also. We're not having shiur on Tuesday because Lumdeha is off for Monday, Tuesday, so I'm taking a break. And I want to start a new parak on Thursday, but I do want to think about this. I'll try to send you guys, if I write it up, a 4-sentence summary. I'll try to send it to you because I feel like we're 90% there, but it needs to be polished. Okay. But good exploration. And I don't know what we're going to learn next, but we'll move on to something else on next time. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hang up and then I'll sign in again for my other shiur at 8. Okay. All right. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.